very warm welcome to you from all of us here at RT International in Moscow. The news team today preparing your top worldwide news headlines. The sound of fighting had eased in Aleppo by Tuesday night, bringing an unusually quiet night to the embattled Syrian city. RT's Lizzie Phelan, who has spent months this year on the front lines in Syria, reports that it was the quietest night in Aleppo that she has experienced to date. And the calm comes in the wake of numerous Syrian army victories against militants in Aleppo. The vast majority of the city has now been liberated. Meanwhile, the evacuation of civilians from the conflict zone continues. Almost 6,000 people, among them are more than 2,000 children, have escaped the violence in just the last 24 hours. But while over 100,000 civilians have now been granted safe passage out of the conflict zone, so too have numerous militants. Meantime, the dangerous work has begun of removing the many booby traps left behind by extremists across the city. However, commenting on the campaign in Aleppo to liberate that, Russia's envoy to the UN warned the war is far from over.
To say that the Syrian conflict is close to being over would be an exaggeration. There is still a long road ahead, but we would prefer this road to follow the plan that was set out in a resolution that calls for a new constitution to be adopted for Syria.
Our Washington correspondent Guy Chikan went to the US State Department to get reaction on the very latest developments and victories in Aleppo.
The State Department has a pretty one-dimensional view of what's happening in eastern Aleppo. Its spokesman John Kirby confirmed it today when asked if he saw reports of people cheering in eastern Aleppo as the Syrian government was retaking control of that part of the city.
No, there are all these reports about atrocities and so on, and I'm not in any way questioning their possible credibility. But also, I saw other reports where people are jubilant, they're happy to see the army command, they're going to the western side where they can get, medicine and food and so on and all these things. So it is not all just one dimension, kind of. Would you agree with that?
No, I don't, Saeed. I mean, I haven't seen every picture coming out of Aleppo, but I haven't seen, honestly, Saeed, I haven't seen any dancing in the streets.
Many people who are coming out of the war-torn eastern Aleppo are telling stories that contradict the State Department's view of the situation there, and apparently John Kirby never heard those stories from his sources of information.
We gather the best information that we can from a variety of sources. Some of it's press reporting, no question. A lot of it comes from reputable aid agencies. That are either on the ground or have associates on the ground in Syria. And some of it comes from intelligence sources, which I'm obviously clearly not going to get into. And I don't think that it's incumbent upon me or anybody else from a podium to sit there in detail and provide a laundry list of every single individual organization that gives us information. It's a mosaic. And frankly, again, I would encourage you to go flip on CNN today and look for yourself at the imagery that's coming out of Aleppo by a reputable news organization.
We followed Mr. Kirby's advice and looked into coverage of Aleppo by respected Western media outlets. And various questions were raised, as RT's Murad Gazdia discovered.
What's happening in Aleppo is one thing. What the media is telling you is happening is entirely another.
100,000 people are trapped in the city. We're getting reports of executions. A very grim picture is emerging from inside Aleppo.
Tens of thousands of civilians are still trapped in the ever-shrinking rebel enclave.
Complete meltdown on humanity.
Picture of just how trapped these civilians are in Aleppo. If they stay at home, they could be killed.
Tens of thousands of people remain besieged, trapped in the war zone.
And the source is, well, someone told them. That's it. Very little of what you see in the Western media about Aleppo is verified. After all, they've got no one on the ground. What they do have are exaggerated headlines.
Who is doing these killings? I can't say who's done all of them, but we understand at least one Iraqi militia is involved. We've heard of killings of civilians in this way in 4 different locations, so it may well be different forces involved.
Now, the UN is being much more careful. Unlike some, just look at this. They appear to be saying there are 100,000 civilians packed into 3 square kilometers. That would have made the part of Aleppo still held by rebels the most densely populated area on the planet. Do you buy that?
This, thus far, is still a war of media. It's a propaganda war. I mean, this is an example, and it exemplifies the level of media reporting and fake news and misinformation on Syria.
And it's not just on TV. Online, you'll find hundreds of heart-wrenching images allegedly taken in Aleppo, except many weren't. This picture, for example, was taken from a music video and sold as an image of what's happening in Aleppo. Then you have this, Assad burning children, even as he guarantees safe passage to rebels and civilians who wish to leave. It's been 4 long years for Aleppo. The shelling, shooting and killing lasted for 1,609 days. Now it's all but over. But if you listen to the mainstream media, well, that's a bad thing. Morad Gazdiev, RT.
However, fake news reports have been stirring emotions at the latest UN Security Council meeting, with Western diplomats echoing various unsubstantiated claims.
This is a dark day for the people of Aleppo, surely the darkest of the past 5 years. Assad's forces, propped up by Russia and Iran, have once again redefined horror. They have gone from siege to slaughter.
Up to 100 children are reportedly trapped right now in a building under heavy fire. Terrorists, clearly. Young children, they must be terrorists. Because everybody being executed, everybody being barrel bombed, everybody who's been chlorine attacked, you're going to be told they're all terrorists.
Our correspondent Lizzie Phelan hit the streets of Aleppo to show residents there the Western media reports of genocide and massacres happening in their own neighborhoods. Well, she got reaction.
Last night, the streets of downtown Aleppo were filled with people celebrating the news that the Syrian army is on the brink of retaking the whole city. But this morning when we woke up, instead of waking up to headlines covering those celebrations, instead the news was filled with unverified claims. We wanted to speak to people from Aleppo, including those who've just fled from East Aleppo today, about these claims, to hear their thoughts. In the news, in the Western media, we're seeing these headlines. This headline says that civilians in Aleppo are telling Al Jazeera that they are facing genocide. How do you react to these reports?
This is not true. Most people are happy now that the situation has changed. We want life to become stable again. Everything is fine here. No one is killing us. The situation is improving.
If there was bloodshed, you would not see me here with my children. I took them and my entire family here with me. We have returned home. Look, here's my daughter sleeping and nothing is bothering her.
No one is harming us now. I do not agree with the Western media. No, we're not oppressed. The Syrian army is doing us no harm. They're even providing us with food.
We were transported to safe areas and provided with shelter, food, all basic needs. The army and the government are on our side. Why should they be against us?
Canadian journalist Ava Bartlett has visited Syria several times in the past few years. At a news conference, she seems to put one journalist in his place when it comes to the issues of stories or fake news coming out of the Western media covering the issues in Aleppo.
You talk about the corporate media, the Western media, the lies, and all of this. Could you explain what you think might be the agenda from us in the Western media, and why we should lie, why the international organizations on the ground should lie?
So, international organizations on the ground. Tell me which ones are on the ground in Eastern Aleppo. Yeah, okay, I'll tell you, there are none. These organizations are relying on the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is based in Coventry, UK, which is one man. They're relying on compromised groups like the White Helmets, which, let's talk about the White Helmets. The The White Helmets were founded in 2013 by a British ex-military officer. They have been funded to the tune of $100 million by the US, UK, and Europe and other states. They purport to be rescuing civilians in eastern Aleppo and Idlib, yet no one in eastern Aleppo has heard of them. And I say no one, bearing in mind that now 95% of these areas of eastern Aleppo are liberated. The White Helmets purport to be neutral, yet they can be found carrying guns and standing on the dead bodies of Syrian soldiers. And their video footage actually contains children that have been recycled in different reports. So you can find a girl named Aya who turns up in a report in month, say, August, and she turns up in the next month in 2 different locations. So they are not credible. The SOHR is not credible. Unnamed activists are not credible. Once or twice, maybe, but every time, not credible. So your sources on the ground, you don't have them. The agenda of some corporate media, it is the agenda of regime change. In 2014, the Syrian people held elections. They see the problem as terrorism. They see elements of problems in the system that they have there. But President Assad, they don't see as the problem. They actually overwhelmingly support